Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank my patron supporters over at patreon.com/bsmpod for continuing to support me and what I'm doing. I would also like to give special shout outs to my senior producers. Shout outs to Ventus Official. Shout outs to my mom and dad. Love y'all. Thank you for supporting me. And now I would like to introduce the 5-time Radio Melee question asker person, someone who is very involved with Minnesota Melee with the big M4, what I suspect to be a combination of the 4 M's of Melee, Minnesota, Monthly, and another one. And I'm very excited to have ETossed on, stats person, sheets person, like numbers and maps and everything you can think of in regards to somehow making Start GG reveal more than just the, oh, this many people entered this tournament. ETossed has been very, very active this year, and I think when I first heard of you towards the end of last year or the beginning of this year, you were like the Melee stats kind of person version of Assault coming on the scene quickly, or like Jmook coming on the scene. Oh, of course, how could I forget? This is Jmook's unofficial manager that I'm talking to right now, ETossed. This is so cool. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very nervous. You know, as soon as you hit the start recording button, I was like, oh my God. I was like fine talking beforehand, but now you hit the start recording and all the pressure's on,
Oh no.
Oh
the
no.
intro did not relax you. I should go for something more chill.
I'm fumbling the bag right now. Thank you for the very, very, very nice intro. Maybe a little too nice, honestly. I don't know if you can. All those things are true, but
So I didn't say that you're the actual real manager of Jmook. You're the manager apparently. I love that on the Twitter bio.
Yeah.
At ETossed for those who are curious.
It kind of started. I mean, do you mean to jump into the background of like how I met Jmook and stuff? I would love to give that background because that makes a lot more sense if you understand how this happened.
By all means.
So, I started organizing 4M, which we'll get into later, in March or so. I realized, hey, I got a decent amount of leftover money. I want to spend it on, Melee, as it's something I've loved for years. And hey, let's DM some great players and see, if they want to come out. And I had a few players that were friends through Melee Stats Discord, like Polish, like Chape, etc. And we're like, hey, would you be interested? Now, Jmook was a player that not a lot of people knew about before Genesis. And I would say, like I said with people before, but the lucky people that did know him before Genesis were mostly Melee Stats members. It's a lot of people who knew him from the scene from whether he beat La Luna in like 2017 or so, and La Luna came to upstate New York, or just why his like ability to never lose in his region. He's hey, don't go to his region. He's gonna fuck you up. Like that's not a good idea.
Or Loco Fight Night in 2021.
Yes, and that gave a lot of people a know of who he was, but then people forgot because that was towards the beginning of 2019 instead of 2021 instead of 2022. And Genesis came around, and I DM'd him in March. I DM'd him in March. I was like, hey, I would love to get you to my tournament. I'll cover your flight, house you, whatever. I think you're super sick. Funnily enough, when I did that, I was telling Polish, like, hey, I'm inviting Jmook. Polish also, Melee Stats Discord, Fiend also goes, please don't, like, if you invite him, he's just going to win. He's just going to beat everyone. Like, Polish knew how good Jmook was. I think we all knew how good he was, but maybe not top 5 level like he is now. But I knew that, so I met him day one of Genesis. I was like, hey, I was like, I DM'd you a while ago about, flying out to Minnesota. Great to meet you. Big fan of your Sheik. Big fan of you as a player. And it's like during doubles when he was teaming with Sora, and like he didn't get people going up to him or anything. And then day 2 happened obviously, and that's the day where he makes the run. He beats everyone in his path. Beats Plup, beats Lod, makes top 8 winners, and everyone's losing their mind. Me and Aiden and a lot of the other people are just losing our minds. This guy's crazy. Also, by the way, for others you don't know, Jmook, as you know, Aiden's a huge Jmook fan. If you haven't seen like the Liard or whatever,
Yes.
Twitter talk about it. Jmook, his name in Melee Stats Discord has been like Jmook Enjoyer for the last like 6 months. Like this, he's been a Jmook fan for a long time, and so we were freaking the hell out during that run. And after, I'm talking to him, I'm like, hey, what do you think about? Well, I should go back first. He said he might be able to go. He wanted to go to the 4M, but he said I can only get off work once a month for tournaments, and I might go with some friends to Gommel. Him thinking, oh, I'm a pretty good player, but I don't have the money to go every time. I don't have the funds, whatever, the time to go. So he was like, hey, I don't know if I can go. I really want to go, but Gommel's a trip not far from me because he's in New York. And so after day 2, I asked him, I'm like, "Hey man, so about that Starbucks job, you still gonna work that? Like, you can make top 8 at Genesis." He's like, "I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow." You know, he was telling me that it was surreal that he'd never heard his name chanted before. Like, we got the entire crowd chanting. It was so electric for him, even on day 2. It was just an incredible run. And then after day 3, well, obviously, actually what happened is that as I think it's during the LOD set or during the plup set, I go, or it might have been Guildhouse afterwards. I go tell Aiden, I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Walmart because they didn't have a Target anywhere nearby, which is what I prefer, you know, as a Minnesota person. Target's the elite store for us. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go buy like 20 white shirts and just write JMOOC on all of them with Sharpies. And I'm like, Aiden, do you want one? And he's like, yeah, sure, if you run it. I don't know if he actually thought I would do it, but I did, and I ended up giving up 20 JMOOC shirts. They were in high demand, super high demand. And obviously, as we know, Genesis 8, top 8 happened, got second, beating Cody twice, beating Nunn, absolutely going insane. Sadly, only losing to Zane. And after the top 8, I asked him, I'm like, Jake, when is the 2-week notice going in? He goes, tonight. He tells me he's winning it tonight. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. And that's how I got to know him. And he, gave me the follow back on Twitter and Instagram, and we talk a decent amount. And I was, I don't remember how it happened, but he just called me the manager of Mook one time. I would have to look back in his tweets to see how it happened. It might have been, it was probably me talking about Genesis 8 and all the shirts and stuff and saying like, congratulations. Like, he said manager of Mook. And I was like, okay, this is going to stick apparently. And when FlyQuest was like, hey, at Jake Dorado, you're pretty cool. You want to talk? And I'm like, as his manager, you should DM him. And they did. And now he's sponsored and he's a top 5 player in the world. It's crazy.
And it's all because, there's just someone constantly bugging JMOOC in the DMs. It is a trick to bug top players, even if they're not top players nationally known yet. Even the ones who are really good secretly behind the scenes are so difficult to get a hold of. So shout outs to you for staying determined, staying with it. But even back then, you were thinking M4 the whole time.
Yeah. 4M is an event I've been planning for a while. It's because the most stacked tournament in Minnesota history actually was the first MMM in February, which doesn't count for PTR, sadly, because it'd be great for Ben, where it was Ben, Ginger, Zamu, Crudo. So we had 2 top 20 players there, Crudo and Ginger, but Crudo also had a broken controller, and Zamu was kind of at a down slump. But Ben won the entire thing, and that was the most stacked Minnesota's ever been. So if 4 top 50 players can make you like the most stacked tournament of all time in Minnesota history, I'm like, fine. Let's get 10 out here. Let's get some top 5 players out here. Whatever. So that's been in the works for a long time, and luckily it's come to fruition. Just knowing enough people, meeting enough people at majors. It's been a lot of work and it's been very stressful, but I'm very excited to have it happen this weekend.
Okay, so this is also your magnum opus, or perhaps your Twilight submission. I don't know what to call this, but this is going to be something that does not repeat in the near future for you, because you're also trying to take a step back from all of this. You want to talk about?
Well, let's just say I'm taking a step back for 2 months or so. I just need to do some work on some personal stuff. But what I'll say is, it's my magnum opus for now. There's if I can get, there's a possibility of an event I want to run where I've talked to some people, and if I can get that done, I don't know if it'll happen, but I can get that done with the connections I have and the willingness to spend a little bit of money and time. That event will blow this one out of the water, but we'll see if that happens. It's not like a shot in the dark, but it wouldn't say it's ultra likely.
So how long have you been involved with Melee just from the beginning? Because I love talking about origin story stuff. If you've listened to 1 or 2 of my podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
So I love hearing this. So I try to leave with it in the open, but we have so much to talk about. So for those of you who are just now getting to this part, you can breathe a sigh of relief just like I am. ETossed, how'd you get into Melee?
All right. So I've actually been in the scene longer than most people know. Because I'm 22. Most people are like, oh, you've probably been a senior, 2018, maybe you're a Slippy kid. Where'd you come from? Like, I showed up to Minnesota locals in 2022, and they're like, who is this guy? I've actually been watching Melee since 2014. Apex 2014 was my first tournament. ever watched. I got into Melee, weirdly enough, through Super Mario Sunshine speedrunning. And everyone goes, oh, you got it through Chillin. No, I got into Super Mario Sunshine before Chillin was running the game. I don't even think he ran the game when I got into Melee, actually. Or at least was a top runner. Maybe he had just started, but I didn't care about players that were like outside the top 200. So I watched that, and it might have been Fire Dragon 764,
Shout outs to
or
Shmeez, by the way.
we love Shmeez. I love Shmeez.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, absolutely worth it. But got into that through that. So they said like, hey, there's a huge event happening this weekend, and I was like, what is this, And I loved a lot of Nintendo speedrunning, Mario Sunshine and Super Mario 64. And as you probably know by now, there's a huge overlap between those communities. There's a big overlap actually. So that ended up happening. I watched it. I kept kind of watching in secret, not like secret, but not involved, for the next like 3 or 4 years or so. I would say 3 years or so. Because I was young, I was 14, 15, 16. I didn't have a car, couldn't go to locals or anything. Minnesota wasn't good. Like, their best player was Slayer. I love Slayer. Logan, I love you if you're listening to this somehow. But I mean, we talked about this. You weren't like, you never traveled. You were probably in the top 100. I really started to get in the game in 2017. Absent Page was getting good around the time. It felt like, oh my god, there's a Minnesota player I can root for. Because I never really rooted for anyone. I mean, my favorite players of all time are Zoo and Armada, which I can talk about later if you want. But those are my favorite players of all time. And then it was Absent Page came along. I was like, oh my god, there's a Minnesota player who actually is good at the game. And like really good. And he was coming on the scene fast. Like, he was going to come up at the same time Zane was. I mean, they both played for, I remember talking about this. They both played for about 4.5 years. In that time, it was unheard of. Now everyone, in-gen got good in a year and a half, right? With Slippy and all these tools. But back then, in 2017, it was unheard of that he was that good so fast.
Right.
Especially with a character like Fox, his name was Marth, So he was getting good. I was like, oh my god, I could follow a lot. Started getting super involved with like Save as Untitled in that group. And so once I got into Save as Untitled, I ended up joining Melee Stats Discord about 2 weeks after it was created in 2018, actually. I was pretty involved for about a year or so. Don't look back at my logs, please. They're terrible. Like, Practical Task literally thought I got banned at some point. Like, not because they're like bad, but just because they're cringe. Like, I was an 18-year-old that was like pretty immature, and it was pretty bad. So I was around pretty actively talking about almost exclusively only about Absent Page in 2018, 2019. Took a step back in 2019 for a year, just with college being a big deal. I was playing 4 esports for my university. I was involved with other sports and a lot of other stuff. I was living a pretty busy life. So Melee took a bit of a backseat at that point. And then I ended up getting back into the game around Slippy time. I still don't play. I still really don't play. I'm an O2 Fox main because I just retired from esports nowadays. But I'm super involved in stat stuff. And what I decided to do this year is I was like, hey, let's do some stat stuff. I'm a coder. I'm a software engineer. I finished my degree. I've got a bunch of experience in Python. I wrote the Smash GG API wrapper at StartGG now. And I was like, hey, let's do something with this. So I ended up writing some stat stuff. Just started writing some maps. I've always loved maps. I'm a geography, history guy. I was like, you know what? Let's combine the two, the maps with the stats for Melee. And it ended up just popping off. Like, it got a lot of retweets. I mean, I had like tweets that got like 8,000 likes with 2,000 retweets. It started popping off. And I just started getting known for that. And like, the people in Melee Stats have known me for 4 or 5 years now. And so it's a little different. They know, but like, not a lot of people have known me for that long. Also, I will also mention my old Twitter got deactivated actually, in like 2019 because of the fact that I put my birthday in when you could they added the birthday feature, and I actually registered for a Twitter account before I was 13, my original account. So they deactivated it right away, and I was like, damn. So I had to create a new Twitter. That Twitter had like 300 followers, 400 followers. Most of them were Sunshine people. Because back in the day, I was super involved in Sunshine. People like said I knew more about the game than anyone that didn't play it, because I still didn't play that game either. So I kind of just jumped around from that community to this community and started getting super involved again. So I guess that's kind of a long but good origin story, I guess, for myself.
It is a good origin story. You have to go through a little bit of time of just participating at a smaller scale. But then when you start trying to get out there, you go, all right, how do I let the people know that I'm out here without being awful at it, and it's just so hard. Like, I created a Twitter a long time ago and I never used it, but then when I started to get to when I got into Melee towards the end of 2018 and in 2019, I'm fiending for Melee. I'm watching Melee, still not playing because, I didn't want to enter. I was too nervous to do that, but I'm watching Melee. I'm following all these top players now, and I'm trying to heart every tweet or try to comment something, and I go, what do I say? I don't know what to say. Good.
So tough.
Good job when they win. I don't know what else to say.
Make sure
otherwise.
to go ask them for a picture when they lose. Top players love that.
Well, I thankfully didn't do that when I actually went to for real tournament. What I did at one of the locals last year in 2021, one of my first times commentating our local, I was talking about the game. I'm having fun. I'm not someone who knows everything about Melee, so I'm making conjectures. I'm like, this is probably a thing, or that's probably not a thing, when the two people playing are playing against each other doing their thing. And one of the players, I mean, we're all less than 10 feet apart, the commentators and the players playing the match, and he was just so upset with me. Yeah, I made that mistake, but I didn't make can we get a picture real quick? I did not make that mistake when I went to Pound or any of the other tournaments so far.
That's about as bad as you can get. That's probably the worst mistake you can make if you're a newcomer to the scene, is go and asking a top player. I mean, even I'm like friends with I'd say friends with J-Mook, I'm friends with Ben, I'm friends with Preeminent, right? Whenever they lose, I am not talking to them. I am like walking away like I didn't see the match. Because the last thing they want to do is talk about it. They just want to sit in sorrow for a bit, and then they'll be fine 10 minutes later. But if they're a top player and you don't know them well, leave them alone for 30 minutes or so. Don't even just leave them alone. Don't do that.
Right. The last thing on their mind is talking to somebody who they haven't heard of before. Like, I don't even know you. Let's not do the whole consoling thing into picture combo. That's the worst combo ever IRL. So
especially picture. Like, oh my god. I was talking to
Armada
Moki about
pictures after EVO 2016. Did you see those?
Yes, I cannot believe there was two of them. There has to be a third somewhere. Someone has to have a third one. God. But I was talking to Moki about this at Genesis. We were at Guild House, both a little drunk. We're talking about him, because I was talking to him at the venue once, and for 5 minutes, and every time I talk to him, within every 30 seconds or so, someone would come and be like, "Hey, can I get a picture, Moki?" And to do that picture, and then leave, not talk to him at all. And I was like, "Do you ever feel like an animal in a zoo?" He's like, "Yeah, kind of sometimes." And it would just feel so weird. Just think about how weird it is from their perspective. How weird would you feel if you were, whoever was considered doing that? How would you feel? You just lost what is basically probably your livelihood in a match, and you're like, "Oh, I feel awful." And the guy comes over, "Hey, can I get a picture? I don't know you at all, but can I get a picture, please?" It's like, not the right time, man. Not the right time.
Speaking of Guild House, one of my patrons had a question about that, so we are going to get to other patron questions soon, but I want to make sure. Okay, so we got a question from Oates, who runs the Major Zine.
Oh.
Where did you learn how to dance, ETossed? Was it when you were cutting a rug at the Guild House on one of the Genesis nights?
Oh, God. I can't dance. Dude, I don't think I can dance. If I danced at Guild House, I don't remember it. That was, I mean, the Yard podcast did literally describe me as the drunkest man alive that night, Saturday night. I don't remember half that night. That night was insane. I don't think I can dance. I mean, look, I see Moki dance. Moki can smooth on the dance floor, kind of, but only when he's a little buzzing. But he doesn't know it. I think he doesn't know it. Maybe I'm the same way, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think anyone wants to see my dance moves.
It's only when your eyes go blank and people go, "Oh, that's not ETossed anymore. That's somebody else entirely who's now going to go to the dance floor." If you were somehow
seeing NJ's finest as me, even though he looks nothing like me at all, that's great. NJ's finest, shout out NJ's finest. Great dancer, incredible. No matter what song came on at the Guild House, he would just kill it. Different dance moves, not even the same thing. Incredible dancer.
So I want to talk about all the Melee stats type stuff that you get into, but most notably, I think something that's going to be a very hot topic once the official rankings of the summer of 2022 come out. They will explode in discourse, if not already. But you are on the MPGR ballot for the summer of 2022.
Sort of. I'm sort of on.
You had a provisional ballot.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. What the heck does that mean?
So that means basically if you do a good job, you'll get a full ballot, either at the end of the year or next summer or whatever. I talked to Dark Giants about it. Like a lot of people had this path as well. A lot of stats nerds. Top players actually just get a ballot if you ask for it, which I'm just gonna say it, kind of whack. I get it, but kind of whack.
When you
There's
see
been
some
a
of these
move.
tweets, you go, "Wait a minute, we're giving ballots to those people?"
Yeah, there's been a kind of a movement between the stats nerds to kind of be like, hey, we shouldn't give top players ballots at all. But that may be a little extreme. I kind of agree with it, but it may be a little extreme. Even Kadoran said on his stream, he was like, yeah, I don't know if we should give top players ballots. There's just too much bias. I mean, we have our own biases as stat guys, but I don't know. It's just weird. But nonetheless, I have a provisional ballot this year. I'm very confident in my ability to do the ballot. After seeing other people's ballots be as chaotic as mine, I felt way less bad. Um, so yeah.
Okay, so let's pull it up here. I'm gonna have to tell all the audio listeners you're in luck in terms of not needing to see this, but if you go on to @ETossed on Twitter and scroll back far enough, you will find the MPGR ballot and you can look along with us. For those of you who are watching, you're just gonna look at me looking at the screen. Okay, so at number 1, you have Zane. Why is that?
Well, let's go over. I'll just say Zayn versus Cody. I have Cody number 2. This is a pretty clear argument for 1 and 2. They both won 2 majors. They both there's one set between them, so not a lot of data between them at all. The thing about Zayn that makes for me that pushed Zayn over Cody, and I think for most people, is his ability to like generally until Double Down basically not lose to anyone outside of the clear top 7. There's a clear top 7 and then an 8th, and then it goes down a bit. So his ability to not lose to anyone outside of that was pretty insane and very consistent. Whereas Cody's got losses to Swooper at Nightclub VIP. He's got Aklo loss. He did not do well function. And no matter if he wants to count, look, Cody, I love you, but you can't just say I'm only counting the wins at function and Nightclub VIP. It's not how it works. Sadly, it does make me wonder. Like, will people be like, hey, maybe top players shouldn't enter regionals, and that would suck. But I would kind of get it from his perspective. But hey, he just beat Zayn at Phantom. If the ballot would have been pushed back one more week, he would be almost unanimously everyone's number 1, I think.
Well,
So
having 2 sets over Zane helps push that over the edge because, like
and
you
an extra
said,
major, right?
because like you said, it was only 1 set at Genesis 8 that Zane and IBDW actually played against each other that you were looking at for the from you get it, like the end of April or end of March through Double Down.
Yeah, it was a great set too, by the way. What a hell of a set! I watched that in person live. Maybe one of the highest sets of like caliber of melee we've ever seen played in that set. They were both playing amazing in that set. But those 2 players were super close for me. I think I've said this before. I think almost every ballot I've seen for someone who has a provisional ballot or an actual ballot has Zayn at number 1. I think even Cody's ballot had Zayn at number 1. I could be wrong in saying that. But I think everyone has Zayn at number 1 as the rankings ended. Like I said, they may be out of date by the time they come out. I think Practical Task said August 8th is the day they come out. But
Content.
yeah, that was a super close decision. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I think Ambi Sinister was tweeting that it's kind of weird how one weekend sort of changes the ballot, but we're not going to count Phantom. That's just how it is. I'm excited to see the official rankings, but okay. I'm going to continue this bit. You have J Mook at number 3. Why is that?
All right, so you might call it bias, whatever. Hungry Bucks versus and Leffen and J Mook are all pretty close. What I realize, and I think most panelists realize, is even before Double Down, when most people did their rough drafts, and we're going to adjust after Double Down, realize, look, J Mook's got the second best head-to-heads. Like, you don't rank off. One of the things that I think that people think is newcomers to the scene do badly is they think that like panelists rank off placements. We don't. That's never a thing. Placements only matter if you win. That's generally the sentiment from top panelists and stuff. And like when I see Hungrybox doing like his own ballot, not actually a ballot, but his ranking with placements, it kind of makes me cringe because like one guy could have gotten 7th and lost to the first and second best player in the world, and one guy could have gotten 7th and lost to the 33rd and the 60th best player in the world. And one person, beat like the best player in the world and the second best player in the world. and the other person got 7th, beating like no one who had the better tournament, even though they placed the same. But placements are super not a great way to, rank players. But for Jmook and Hungrybox and Left and Steak, Jmook had the second best head-to-heads, and I think there's an argument to be made that after Double Down, he may just straight up have the best head-to-head. Like, he has no losing record except for Mango, Amsa, and Hungrybox. Hungrybox is the clear roadblock. Amsa has only one or two sets, but I think he could beat him. He just needs to learn the matchup more. It's unfamiliar. And Mango, it was a 3-2 set. It was close, but it's still a loss. But every other person, Zane and IBW and HBox and all have like bad losses. HBox has a Kalindi loss, who I think is probably going to finish outside the top 30. IBW has a Swooper loss, who's going to finish in around 25. Zane's got Slug and Amsa losses now as well. So, and he has the head-to-head over Zane and IBW, the number 1 and 2 players in the world. Like, there's an argument that he has the best head-to-heads out of anyone there. And for Hungrybox's one major win, and Leffen's one major win with no activity, it wasn't enough to push either of them over Jmook for me. I've seen Jmook as low as 5 on ballots. I haven't seen him below 5. I think he'll finish 3 or 4, but I do not think he'll finish lower than 3 or 4.
That'll be the highest ever debuting spot on the top 100.
Beating Bananas at number 19 was the previous record.
And that is something that I don't know that we'll ever see again, because part of it has to do with the fact that rankings have not been a thing since the end of 2019. Of course, we've had the pre-GR and all that stuff, but we haven't had actual... Yes. Mm-hmm. We haven't had this actual real balloting system going off of offline results only, and even including locals and all that fun stuff. By the way, if you don't want a result or a head-to-head matchup to be considered, then I wouldn't even say be selective about the tournaments. Maybe just don't play Melee at all, because something that matters in the community from a competitive perspective is rankings. And when you put yourself out there, literally, it kind of is what it is. But I heard you talking about development potential in Jmook when you were talking about having a losing record against Amsa during this ranking period, but you say you feel confident that he'll figure it out. That's all fine and well. But in this period, Amsa did have the head-to-head, right?
Yeah.
I know that's not enough to lift Amsa above 3 other people, including Jmook, to be the 3rd spot, by the way. I realize that. But I'm curious about how you okay, justify may also be the wrong word, but Jmook has a losing record against Hungrybox and against Amsa, both of whom would be ranked below him. Is it just going back to the argument of saying Hungrybox has worse head-to-head records and so does Amsa?
Yes, that's almost completely what it is. And Leffen probably has better head-to-heads, but Leffen also has losing record to Jmook, and he just doesn't enter anything. There's not enough data. You got to punish someone at some point for not entering anything. Obviously, he's overseas and had a bunch of problems. So it's weird. I can see an argument for Leffen high as number 3. I wouldn't hate it. I think all those players are pretty close. It's been a super hard ranking season because we don't have a bunch of data. But yeah, for Amsa and HBox specifically, they've got a lot of bad losses that are way worse than Jmook's worst loss, which is Mango. And they don't have the head-to-heads that he does against Cody, and both of them have losing head-to-heads against Cody and Zane. And Jmook has winning head-to-heads against Cody and Zane, which I value more than, the one game he played against Amsa, and maybe HBox has a pretty dominant head-to-head over Jmook at this point. But I don't think that alone pushes him over. I do think it's close, and I think there's an argument to be made. But I think Jmook's head-to-heads at the top level are just too good to, even with Hungrybox's win at Gommel, to do it.
I have a question about Slug, because you can't count the Phantom result, but Slug is pretty high here for having, I would say, not a lot of national tournaments under the belt for the first half of this year. Was it just purely based off of what you were able to see for regionals that he was able to attend, things like the Function 2 and that such?
Yeah, and I will say Double Down helped him a lot. I think if without Double Down, he doesn't finish top 20. Beating Zane is a huge win. Like, Zane may still, maybe number 2 in the world after this weekend, I guess, with the presumptive number 2, but number 1 in the rankings, probably. But beating Zane's like we talked about this with Edwin Buddy and SF, 2 members of Melee Stats. Salt was asking us, he's like, hey, if I would have beat Zane at Summit, how much higher would I be in the ranks? We're like 10
A
to
lot
15.
higher.
Like
That's
beating
so
Zayn
mean.
is massive. He does not lose to anyone. If you beat Zayn, you're not a top 10 player. It's basically unheard of at this point. So Slug beating Zayn it was huge for him, and I think he'll finish top 20 sure for sure. Also, funny enough, he didn't go to Phantom, but he did go to the Trail Invitational and lost to Chudat. He lost to Chudat and someone else. So he did not have a good weekend actually last weekend, funnily enough. So he's probably
Chudat's
thanking
just
the
gonna do that
heavens.
to people.
Yeah, I don't, and IC Ditto too. Weirdly enough, yeah. But I think he's thanking heavens that that the next weekend did not count for him. Cody's wishing it did, and Slug's like, thank God it didn't.
So you have more numbers here than what you technically needed. Am I correct? Isn't it? Aren't we only doing top 50?
Yes, so they said generally rank like 51 players as minimum. I ranked everyone besides Palpa. Sorry, Palpa, you're my goat. I love Palpa. He just didn't attend anything. But I ranked everyone else as much as I could. Tried to say who's better here, whatever. Um, yeah, I'll go into this briefly and just say I tweeted this out the other day, but it seems like every panelist I've talked to except for Edwin, I think, or some I don't know Edwin, someone had the same 1 through 10 in some order. With Zayn number 1, Cody number 2, Jmook, Leffen, Amsa kind of their own tier, but Jmook mostly at number 3. And Leffen and Hungrybox switched around. Sorry, not Amsa, Hungrybox and Leffen. Plup and Amsa were really close. Most people's ballots were 6 and 7. Lod was the easiest person to rank on the ballot. I don't know if you've seen tweets about this. Like Chape Meme tweeted about. He's like, "Here's my ballot: Zayn number 1, Cody number 2, the rest. Lod number 8, the rest." Lod was the easiest person to rank on the ballot. Darkgenex suggested that anyone that didn't rank Lod 8th should be stripped of their ballot and should be banned from ever having one again. And you know what? He's right. It is so easy to put Lod at 8. You don't have to. You see his results for 3 seconds. You're like, he's number 8. And most people had Nunakador in there. But then also 11 through 20, almost everyone had the same numbers. 11 through 20 was super similar. I have Moki a little bit lower than most people have Moki, and I have Aklo a little bit higher than most people have Aklo. But those numbers are generally around the same. And then about everyone else has the same, like 21 through 27 with like Magi, Pissweek, SFAT, Sweeper, Sparks, Swift, Null. I have KGH up there because I value the HBox win really heavily. But I saw people that didn't have him in their top 30 or maybe like lower, they're generally like around 40 or 35 or so. But those 7 players I just listed, I've seen them almost every ballot in those rankings, and then there's a pretty clear drop off after that.
So who on here that would be outside of top 20 territory do you look at and say, I really hope, or I am predicting, even if you want to call it a prediction, if you want to make a prediction, who outside of the top 20 has the best chance of going really high into top 10 territory or top 5 territory for the second half of the year?
Second half. Ooh, outside of top 20, that's tough.
Because it would be very hard to do.
Yeah. If anyone, well, so Polish is at my number 20 spot right now. And I think Polish is at a lot of people's number 20 spots right now, 18 to 20. If you count them, then they're probably the heavy favorite. Polish is really, really good, and obviously was probably number 9 on people's ballots last year, even though it was just the contenders list. They didn't have actual numbers. So Polish is a really good shout. They're a sick peach player. I mean, I love their play. Their play is so fun to watch. Another person I'd say look out for a lot. We haven't seen a lot of Swift. We haven't seen a lot of Spark. Both those players in that 21 to 27 range I talked about. Really, really good. Everyone thinks Spark's really good. We haven't seen him. I think he moved back to Pakistan. I'm not sure about that. But he's really good. Outside of that, I don't see anyone making the jump to top 10 really this year. I don't think anyone else really got a chance. Maybe Pipsqueak. Pipsqueak's cracked out of his mind, but he doesn't travel enough. Magi is really good as well, obviously, but he just tends to rack up weird, like bad losses. Like he lost to Vu, which may be the worst loss that anyone in the top 50 has actually. That's probably not true, but a top 30 for sure. So it's really hard to say. But everyone thinks Salt's gonna be a top 10 player in a year or so. I don't think he'll finish top 10 by the end of the year. But everyone plays friendlies with Salt for an hour and goes, "Wow, this person is gonna be top 20, top 10, maybe not top 5, super soon, really free." And if you want to give me the actual answer, who's gonna be top 10, top 5? That's not in the top 20. It's Wizrow because he's on the ballot.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. We really hope that Wizrobe comes back as soon as possible, albeit safely as well.
He's
Easy
registered
peasy,
for
easy peasy.
Smash Factor. Chape wants to play him. He's excited to play him, so hopefully he goes.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that Wizrobe definitely was registered for a lot of events at first and has been just slowly, as the events come up, not going to be able to make this one, not going to be able to make this one, but I hope soon. And then I look at somebody like Laud, who is going to have that kind of career moving forward unless some serious effort is put into to get out to, say, at least 5 majors a year and being able to do it throughout the year while posting up good results to maintain an 8th spot. It's not going to happen in the final 2022 year. So let's say that Laud doesn't go to any more events this year, which is possible. I don't know Laud's schedule or like what if he's going to try to attend something big, maybe one more tournament like Big House. But let's just say that doesn't happen. Let's say that this is it. How far does Laud fall with only having a half year of results?
I don't think he even qualifies. I don't think he'll have enough results. I think the threshold right now is 2 majors or 1 major and 2 regionals. Laud has 2 because he has Pound and Genesis, but Summit invitationals don't count for actual attendance requirement. Summit won't count for an attendance requirement. I think my guess will be it'll be 3 or 4. What Practical has said, he'd like however many, whatever the number is to give us a top 100 players. But I think it'll probably be 3 or 4 majors, and I don't know if Laud will hit that. Let's say Laud hits, 3 or 4, like hits the minimum requirement, and they make it. He makes it on the MPGR. He'll probably slide down to the top 20s, but his wins are too good, and then he has like no bad losses. It's too hard for me to see him sliding farther than 20, maybe even 15. If he keeps it up at the rate he's at, just because of how many losses everyone else has. Like everyone in the 11 to 10 range right now has a bunch of bad losses that are way worse than Laud's worst loss. And
So
Laud has
basically,
Zane
for
win as
Laud to
well.
stay on the list in general, because it's either not qualifying or attending something like Shine and Big House. See,
Yeah.
those are. I mean, come on, Laud. I would love to
I'm
see.
afraid he's there, man. We love to see Laud. Great player.
Yes,
Great player.
absolutely, absolutely. For me, in terms of a outside of top 20 player to potentially break far, I just try to look at somebody who's up and coming, and maybe Salt just accelerates the timeline, or maybe, and this feels so unlikely, but if I say it now and it happens, I'm gonna clip this. I'm a genius.
Nostradamus. Yeah.
Who do you think I'm thinking of?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. There's so many good players, but I don't know who you're thinking of that's like top 20. Becomes like top
Axe.
10.
Somehow
Axe?
turning it all around. Somehow.
Man,
In some bizarre way. That would
I
be
would love that.
the most insane thing to happen, because it took Hungrybox over a year to turn it around. And so it would be very difficult, so difficult for Axe to be able to do that. But let's say, for instance, Axe starts poking into top 8s. That you start to get wins if you're making top 8s at majors. So
if you beat Zane, he'll probably be up there. Like, that's the thing. He hasn't beaten Zane. Zane hasn't beaten him in a long time. I just think it's so tough for Pikachu right now.
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest. To talk to people about this, it's so tough for Pikachu right now, especially that Axe kind of plays an older school Pikachu. Like we thought, Axe was the only way to play Pikachu for so long, the way he plays. And then Swift came around, and Swift plays completely differently, Pikachu. And then you have the awful matchup of Puff, where I think Puff nowadays is borderline unwinnable for Pikachu. I mean, at a top level at least. I mean, you saw Axe, go Fox against Palpa at LTC.
Yep.
Because that matchup is just not good. It is not good for Pikachu. So if he gets the right bracket, maybe, but I just, and with how he's playing recently, I don't know if I could see him cracking. I think Swift is a more likely Pikachu to crack into the top 10 than Axe is right now. As sad as it is to say, because I love Axe, but Swift seems more likely to make top 10 than Axe does anytime soon.
And then another insane thing to point out is that I don't think that there is another Puff besides Hungrybox all the way until Toussaint, and who you have Toussaint at number 38 for your ballot. Is that
such a weird player, man? We
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about this. I've talked about this people before. He does so well in nightclubs. In nightclubs, he's great, but most people don't count locals because they're kind of weird to count. And unless you have a lot of not enough data, you prefer to count majors or regional. His performances at majors and regionals have not been good, but then in state he's incredible. He did just win the Trail Invitational over Zamu and J-Flex and a lot of that. That helps him out a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so weird. I mean, I think that he's probably the second best puff in the world right now. It's probably him. Then I guess Palpa, probably, who most people probably don't know, just because Palpa's never left Texas. He's never played in the tournament outside of Texas, but he's probably been top 50, top 100 for sure for the last like 3 years. But he just doesn't enter anything. He only enters Austin locals and Texas regionals and majors. He's really good though, and goes Fox for the Puff Ditto actually. And his Fox for the Puff Ditto is really for the Puff matchup is really good.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They then pronounced her to saying, if I recall correctly. Just wanted
Oh,
to
really?
make sure
Yeah.
I noted that. I'm not trying to gotcha or anything. I just wanted to make sure I said something.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. That's my bad.
Prosperity. So this is just so cool to see finally in front of us what a list of 2022 top level Melee players are. And like you were saying earlier of how hard it is to get data, even though there have been so many events, it's just there are very few players on this list who have been present or accounted for in any capacity for the majors that we've had this year and all the majors that we're going to have for the rest of 2022. Is that there will be hitters who are going to be missing, and then you get to an event like Genesis where you can reasonably assume that 3/4 or maybe even close to all of them will be present and accounted for because it's Genesis, that kind of event. But even then, you might not get the matchups that you want, where you as a data analyst person, a stats person, go, can I please see Slug versus, can I please see Kadoran versus, especially like East to West Coast matchups, or
Please
more
give me
importantly,
Zane Axe. Like, come on, man. Zane Axe. That's all everyone wants. Give me Zane Axe, even in the active current state. Like, come on.
at this rate, you'd have to have that be like the end of a pool. Put Axe and Zane in the same pool.
Yeah, because Axe will be like 32nd seed, and Zane will be like first, so you know they could play.
Mm.
Probably more likely now than it has been in the past, just because the seeding's weird right now.
It is weird. Oh, speaking of, we should probably talk about Mango being outside of your top 10, which to me makes sense. There are some people who are saying, oh, well, you can't drop somebody that far down. And I go, well, has Mango's results been top 10 this year? Have they been? So you were the person who willingly and boldly put it out there. No, I don't think that Mango had top 10 results for this year so far. So why would you say that is?
It's the amount of losses. He's got bad head-to-heads against everyone above him, basically, and he's got a lot of bad losses. I don't know I have them on me right now, but I did see when I was going through it, he just versus like someone like Nunn or Kadoran was a lot more consistent and had a lot better wins. I've seen, I won't say who, but I've seen like 10 or so ballots. I've seen ballots with Mango as low as 15. Like, Mango will not make the top 10 this year. I'm going to say it right now. It's 100% certainty. There's no way he makes top 10 unless all these top players are putting him at like 5 because they're like, oh, it's Mango. He's so good. We play against him in friendlies. But
which is possible.
Yeah, it's possible. Like, Fizzwiggle didn't make the ballot when Mango lost to him. Like, Fizzwiggle's not even on the ballot. Like, I don't know. It's just so tough for Mango right now. Everyone's so good right now. And he has got about a bunch. I mean, he's 0-1 on the Fiction, 0-2 Hungry Box, 0-1 IBW, 0-1 Kadoran, 0-1 Zane, and he's lost to Fizzwiggle. His best win is, let's see, he beat Mac, beat Nunn. Nunn's a good win. S2J's a good win. J-Flex, Jockman, J-Mook. J-Mook's definitely his best win.
For sure.
But everyone in that range kind of has those top 3 wins. Like, everyone below him, like, even if you go to my ballot, like, Ginger has a Plup win. Fiction has a Mango. Fiction has just a lot of good wins around the. I don't remember exactly who's beat. Slug has a Thane win. Aklo has an IBW win. S2J has a Hungry Box win. Everyone around that range has those wins. It's not like he's got some crazy head-to-heads against like Zane or IBW. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Mango even not finish 11th. I think he will finish exactly 11th, but I wouldn't be surprised if he finished 12th or 13th on the final rankings.
And do you see that being a turnaround instance for the rest of the year? Because Edwin Budding of Melee Stats, who we've mentioned a couple times already, definitely believes in the 2019 arc where Mango was not having great results, and then all of a sudden won Big House 9, won other events towards the end of 2019, and was pushing for the #1 spot.
I think it's possible, but to take Edwin's takes about Mango with a grain of salt. He may not admit it. Well, he'll admit it to you in person. I don't know if he'll admit it online, but he's a massive Mango fan. He loves Mango.
Well, of course,
So he
most of
definitely.
us do.
I'm not. I will say. I'll admit this openly on podcast. I'm not a Mango fan. I'm not a Mango fan at all, actually. Not even like my top 3 favorite Falcos. And I'm also not a fanboy, so that probably hurts. One of the reasons why. But
Oh,
I'm not a
yes, that
Mango
makes
fan.
sense.
But there's other reasons why. It's not just his play or Armada. But I won't go into those. I don't want to start crashing some people or whatever. Stating all my wild opinions. But it's definitely possible. But the biggest roadblock for him right now is Zane. He's lost the last 6 sets like 3-0. Like he just cannot take a game off Zane in the bracket. It's bad. And as far as I'm concerned, Zane's not going to lose to anyone regularly besides Cody and Jmook and maybe Leffen, but Leffen doesn't go at anything. So, and maybe Plup, but like, I think he'll be seeded into Zane a lot. He'll be seeded into Zane a lot because he'll be 9th or 8th seed a lot of tournaments. Or, or like whatever, 7th seed. And he's going to play Zane. And I just don't see him beating him. I just don't see a way Mango beats Zane in his current form. Even with Zane, losing tournaments to Cody, just I don't see it happening.
So, other than Jmook being the next player to win a major, who would you have to be the next player to win a major?
That's so tough because it doesn't feel like Jmook kind of came out of nowhere. Like we knew he was top 20 probably people melee stats, but it's so tough to say someone's gonna win a major. I want to say Amsa, but Amsa has so many roadblocks. But I mean, hell, everyone has so many roadblocks. You want to say Moki because Moki, had 4th LACS. Moki when he's at his peak looks like the best Fox in the world. And he's there's 1 or 2 stocks where you're like, wow, this guy is incredible. It's so hard to say. I mean, I think Amsa's the safe answer, but I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Kadoran or Fiction win it as well, or Slug if he gets the right bracket. Slug's a good answer if he gets the right bracket. If he gets a lot of Sheeks and a lot of Marths and not Falcos, you can avoid Falco and you can avoid, like I don't know Ganon, but like Ganon's not gonna challenge him. You can avoid like Falco and Fox and Falcon. I mean, Fox you can win, but like if you can avoid Falco and Falcon, I think he's got a good chance at like going really far at a major, and who knows? Maybe he'll be playing Cody. I mean, he's beaten Cody online before. He 3-0'd him online, so
Yeah.
it's you can definitely Slug is probably a good answer too. So my answer is probably Amsta or Slug or I think Kadoran probably good answers.
And of course, you're rooting for a Jmook to be that player as well.
Oh no, it's not even a question whether whether he'll win a major. It's when he just needs to get the right bracket or figure out Honeybox because he's not gonna get Amsa every time. If you have 1 roadblock in Amsa, that's not a big deal. 1 roadblock you can deal with.
Oh,
2
sure.
roadblocks makes it a lot harder. So
Yes.
if he can figure out Hbox, then I think he can because I know Ben beat him 9-3 in 2021 online.
Or Ben not having as much success this year on the IRL side of things against Hungerbox.
Yeah, I think it definitely can win. I mean, both those stats I've watched both Bennett versus Hbox and Jmook versus Hbox at Gommel, and both of them had times where it's like, wow, these guys can learn from each other, and also like times where they just got clutch boxed on. Just happens sometimes. You got to prevent the clutch factor, and if you can do that, you got a lot better chance. I mean, Jmook was up 1-0 in the second set, and then got clutched rested in the second game, and then lost 3-1. And Dreamland is so hard for Sheik. Dreamland is so tough for Sheik. She has no consistent kill options. It's so tough for Sheik. So it's almost like it's not as bad as like Marth Fox FD, but it's really really bad. I think, in my opinion. But that's almost like an auto loss. Like you can win it, and I like Jmook almost did.
Yes.
But that stage is so bad for Sheik. You have to outplay Pup so hard to win on that stage. So it feels like you're gonna at least lose 1 game there for sure. There's no way I think a set will go 3-0 and Ben or Jmook favor against Juan.
So what I love about Jmook is not only just the fact that watching Jmook play Sheik makes me think that Sheik is all of a sudden the coolest character in the game, and I'm not a Sheik hater before Jmook's incredible runs at tournaments this year. I just would have said, yeah, Sheik is pretty good. Sheik's pretty cool. The tech chases are cool, but I think most people are like all of a sudden like, oh, watching Sheik is so much fun. Watching Jmook Sheik is so much fun. That's all really fine and well, but what I especially like is the composure. I feel like Jmook has already won 5 majors and is just able to consistently place top 8, top 4, that kind of thing, and is looking for the next one. It feels like it feels like in some weird way, as if Jmook has already won 5 of these things and is just continuing to make the case to be, again, considered one of the best players in the world. So I agree with you. The when and where is really the only questions, not so much the if, but for someone who spent a long time not consistently pushing top 10, I mean, Jmook played a long time before finally having this year. Maybe it's longer than what most of us will think, but I'm predicting for sure that in 2022 that Jmook attends an event, he'll win it.
I don't even think it's a question of if it's 1. I think it's a question of it's 2 or 3.
Okay, well,
I'm confident. I'm confident he'll win more than 1.
Ooh.
I think he
in
will
2022. To clarify.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm confident. I gotta look. First of all, I gotta back my boy. First of all, if I wasn't thinking this, like I wouldn't be saying it. Second of all, like I said, he has the best head-to-heads out of any player right now. He only has 2 clear roadblocks, and he hasn't got upset by anyone. Cody doesn't really have a roadblock right now, but Cody's also prevalent to losing to someone random like Swooper or Racklow.
Right.
I mean, obviously, both those are good players, but Jmook hasn't shown that. Even when Jmook was playing like trash, no offense, Jake, you know this, we talked about this, versus like Smash Daddy and didn't play that great against Josh either. You know, he still pulled off the set. His composure has really helped him out there. And Zane has clear roadblocks too, like in Jmook and Leffen and Plup, and I mean, he just off the Amsa and Slug as well. Two other weird characters.
And also having to deal with IBDW as well.
Yeah, and Cody's beating him just beat him double eliminated in Phantom with 3-1, 3-0. So I honestly think that he will win 1, if not 2. I'm hoping that he wins them when I'm in attendance. Let's hope that. So I'm hoping for Big House and the Summit back to back. I'm hopefully going to Summit. If not that, Smash World Tour. I'll be there for sure. I'm hoping he'll win, when I'm in attendance, and that's the goal. So
you're going to Big House?
Hey, I'm from Minnesota. I'm from Midwest. Everyone's going. I mean, like 25, 30 Minnesotans hopefully are going to that, and I'm going as well.
All right. Well, I will meet you in person there, and I will get to see how you gather crowds around you. One of the struggles that Edwin has with interacting with you is how you just attract a crowd.
I read that. It was funny. I'm just pretty extroverted and know a lot of people in the scene already, and kind of ended up just hanging out with like 10 plus people all the time. Like at Double Down, I was gambling out with some group. Shout out Church. I love Church. Shout out Zeke from Golden Guardians, Rien, Alexis, Katsuunut, Salami. A lot of people. I'm probably missing someone here, and I said Church already, I think, but if I didn't say Church as well. Emmy. Hung out with a lot of people at Double Down and Gamo. It was a great time.
That's just so unlike me. I think Edwin and I are in the same camp where we're great with a smaller group of people, and then in a big crowd, it's like we need to find our people and corner them and make them only interact with us.
I think that's a lot of Smashers, though. That's why it's why I've had people be like, hey, like, I'm going to a major with one of the Minnesota people. They're like, hey, like, let's go together since we're both pretty social. We'll get like 30 people, 40 people around us. Maybe not the best idea with COVID. We'll be masked up most of the time. So, hopefully that'll alleviate that. But I'm very, very happy. I love being around a lot of people. I love talking, love being around a lot of people. So it's a great environment for me.
So now we're going to get into the patron questions. So this will be our last segment for the evening. I appreciate the time so far, ETossed, and I hope that you're good with going for a little bit longer here with some Patreon questions.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So we first of all got shout outs from Gumball who said, oh, I met ETossed briefly at Genesis. Tio's from Minnesota too, I think. Typically flies out 1 player per big event. Here's a question. Who's your white whale of who you would fly out to an event? As in someone who you think, or someone who you don't think you'd ever get to actually show up, but it would be super cool to get them there. I already have my prediction locked in. Now you go. Who would you bring out?
All right. Well, there's people I've talked to that I think I can get out there. I think the weird thing I'll say is I think that I'm confident in my ability to I don't know if schmooze is the right word, but I'm friends with enough people I can get people out there. Especially if you offer to pay for their hotel and their flight, or their housing in general. I think the one player I would love to get out there that I would struggle to get out there, I'll say non-retired, because my answer is Armada if it's anyone I can pick in the world.
I know it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But he's retired, so not going to say him. answer for someone that isn't retired, I think there's like 3 or 4 people I couldn't convince to come to Minnesota, like by just themselves, or just like not by themselves, but just if I don't know them well enough. It's probably just like Zane, Mango, HBox. I think I could get a lot of. I think I can get Cody here if I get Jake here. If I get J-Mook here, I think I can get Cody here. And Cody's been in Minnesota before, so. But I think my answer is Zane. Love Zane. Really nice guy. I've talked to him before, obviously at the majors before. Shout out ETossed, by the way. Um, I think Zane's my answer for that question.
Okay, because I was about to say Leffen, you might as well add Leffen to the list because I pound Leffen was
Sure,
just like following Zane everywhere, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It was just like Leffen found his person, and it was Zane.
Yeah, I guess Leffen and Omps are probably on that list. International players are a lot harder because
for sure
they're just more expensive. But I was thinking more domestic players. I think
Mm-hmm.
Armada's totally the number one answer. I think Zoo's actually my number 2. I think Zoo would, like I said, Zoo's my favorite player of all time. But he's been playing again. I went out to KBBQ with him and some other people at Double Down. And he was saying, he's like, I know I'm your favorite player. Like, you'll love to hear this. I've been playing Falco again. I was like, oh, you've been playing Falco again. I love your Marth, but I love to hear playing Falco again. So.
Well,
Yeah,
you know how it is with Melee people, and you know this yourself. You try to get out, you just have to come back in. You can't help it.
Yep. Well, we'll see if he competes again, but he's a great commentator as well. I love listening to him commentate. So.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think Zoo and Lovage, I don't even know if they've been paired this year in terms of any capacity, but like that's who I think of when I think of somebody besides the pairing of hold on, Phil and Brandon. I just love hearing their perspective of some people who have been playing the game for a very, very long time, who have all the notes in their head about history, anecdotes, stories. Very, very fun. And Scar is fun as well in that regard. It's also fun how Scar doesn't always 100% recognize the players that he's commentating.
It's funny. It's really funny.
Awesome. I love that.
I will say also to answer that question that I thought would be a white whale but isn't. Would be Homemade Waffles, who is coming to 4M actually. I got him to come, so he's going to commentate our top 8.
Very cool. Very cool.
I'm very excited for that.
That's awesome. Looking forward to at least trying to catch that a little bit, although I will be going down to... So you have 4M. I'm going down with a carpooling with some 7-1-7 players to M3, which is a Baltimore monthly being run by Bard, who's getting Bones and some other good players out there for the Baltimore monthly. Looking forward to seeing what Baltimore continues to do because there have not been big Baltimore tournaments, I think, ever. New York had a really long time where it was just locals and you couldn't even call any of them regionals. And then Ryobeat, who has since stopped TOing, but shout outs to Ryobeat for making the function and the function 2 happen and making them quasi majors. Super cool. And shout outs to Gene Dalla, who's trying to make events big in Philly. Creed was a nice sized regional that we had. I wasn't able to attend, but that was a month and a half ago or so that B-Bats won. B-Bats 6-0'd to Saint in winners and grands.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Billy. Love Billy.
Beast Bats, Clutch Bats, and then Baltimore. So these are the 3 cities that are kind of close to me. I guess Pittsburgh would be something as well, but shouts to Gumball doing Fight Pit. I don't know if that will ever be major size, but I just get tired of these Los Angeles majors being a thing, and I just want Tri-State to be more of a thing again.
You want to know a fun fact? The reason why I want people to come to Minnesota, Minneapolis, people don't realize this. Minneapolis-St. Paul is the largest metro area in the U.S. to never have a Melee major.
Really?
It's 16th biggest. People just don't realize that Minneapolis-St. Paul is a super big metro area. It's because Minneapolis only has 450K people, but the metro area is 4.6 mil. It's bigger than like Denver. It's bigger than a lot of cities. It's bigger than Orlando. Like if I pull up the biggest metro
but Orlando's
area,
in Orlando. ETossed, you know that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. They just have perpetually warm weather.
Like bigger than Tampa, bigger than San Diego, bigger than Denver, St. Louis, Orlando, San Antonio, Portland, Pittsburgh. All Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area is bigger than all of these.
And yet no major has ever happened there.
Yeah, we're at 3.6 mil. We're at 3.6 mil. Like Pittsburgh, for example, is only at 2.3 mil. So they got 1.2 less than us. We just, like I said, it's like a tenth of our metro area is in the city, but the rest of we got a bunch of 80K suburbs everywhere. So a lot of people.
So now we go on to the next question. We got this from Kreestab via Kreestab of Conduit Gaming. What are ETossed thoughts on Melee's current methods of capturing and processing data, i.e. stage/character picks, informed seeding, etc.? What does he think we can do better and what is worth improving? We'll just stop there because we'll have to go back to the other questions. Those are good enough. So in other words, thoughts on current methods of capturing and processing data and what can be improved as of right now?
I will say, shout out Kreestab. Great. I've worked with them before. Great. One of the things I will say about Melee is, as anyone who has used it know, Start VG's API is kind of dog shit. It's kind of bad. I've probably have more experience in Start VG's API than most people because I wrote the API wrapper for it. It's pretty bad. It has a lot of weird errors that don't make any sense. It sometimes duplicates matches, and it's just annoying. It's kind of bad to use. So that's one thing I'd say. Another thing I'd say is PG stats is kind of weird sometimes. I think it needs to be like I think Ambi, myself, and PG stats all separately had the same idea for a website at the same time about basically likes PG stats. We were all working on it, and then I had to throw mine in the garbage. Ambi had to throw his in the garbage because PG stats came out before us. So just a better place. Like, I think one of the things we could do for data that would help a lot is something like, I don't know if you follow Counter-Strike at all.
I do not.
HLTV. It's been the homepage for Counter-Strike for like 10, 15 years where they have, rankings there. They have articles every day. They have the new matches on the sideboard. It looks like a professional website for Counter-Strike where we don't really have a homepage for Melee.
Right.
We don't really have it's Melee just has like random sites. Like PG Stats is fine, but it doesn't really tell you much. And they're more focused on Ultimate, it feels like. So
yeah,
it's
of course.
I would say that. And in terms of like processing data, I don't know. I would love for there to be an actual like good rankings algorithm, but that's been hard to prove, hard to do. Read Ambi Sinister's, look up, I don't know what the actual article's called. Look up like why Elo is bad for Melee competitively, and you'll understand why Hanky Panky is the goat, but also why Elo is bad for Melee. And a lot of those crew skill rankings are also bad in general for ranking top players. But I would love to see something like that where you could get an actual good idea of the rankings without having to pull panelists. Even though I am a panelist myself,
an
but it's
aspiring
super
panelist.
tough for Melee. Yeah, aspiring panelist. That's a good way to put it. Other than that, I would love to see more in-game stats be more available. I think you can get them, but it's hard to see. I think that'd be very useful to have for top players and coaches to like help people improve a lot. Just like spacing charts, like heat maps on the stage, whatever. A lot of data I think can be pulled from the game that's still not being pulled from the game. I mean, hell, Uncle Punch has only really existed for like 4 or 5 years, I think, or so, where people have been really using it a lot. 2018, 2017. So like, who knows what will go in the future with all the stuff in game where we can get even more data.
Okay, so I just realized that Kreestab accidentally posted the same question twice. This whole message twice. It was an accidental double post. So we don't actually have more questions from Kreestab. That rounds out the Patreon questions. Except I did remember we have ETossed the homie, but we also have ETossed goodbye ... for now. So I wanted you to come onto this podcast so you could tell me what the heck why you have to say goodbye for now. You can get into it as little or as much as you want to, but what I have a hard time doing is stopping with most of the things that I do, and I get the impression that for you, ETossed, you like to go all in as well. But you also seem to have the wisdom to be able to pull back and say, I need a break. I need to do other things. I need to not be like balls deep in Melee. So is that one of the big parts about taking a step back?
Yeah, I think part of it is that. But one of the biggest things for me, and I think I was talking with one member of my scene about this, who's also thinking of taking a break. I think what a lot of Melee players don't realize, and I don't want me to sound like condescending or anything, is that like myself, I have a massive life outside of Melee. Most of I would say 90% of 90 to 95% of my life is spent in Melee. None of my inner life friends are Melee people. I have friends with my scene, but like none of my close IRL friends are Melee people. I don't. Everything I do with Melee is a separate life almost. So it's a lot easier for me to cut off than just like, I don't know. I couldn't stop hanging out like playing Ultimate Frisbee with friends because that's how I do that every week, like multiple times. It's a great thing to do.
Ultimate Frisbee is very, very fun. Just to make that clear.
But like I said, most of my life is outside of Melee, and I think it's a not everyone. It's not that way for everyone, and maybe it's because I don't play the game or anything, and I'm retired from all the esports I used to play back in the day. I mean, I was very good at a lot of esports. I was very, very good. I was top 500 North America for Overwatch. I was A plus ESEA for CS:GO. I was Legend in Hearthstone and Infinite Arena in Hearthstone. So I was very good at a bunch of different games, but I retired now, and I just don't have the drive for it. I used to, and so I realized, hey, I need to step back and just know I'm some of the things in Melee. I love the community, but I also hate the community at the same time for a lot of different reasons. I think a lot of people feel the same way. So,
DQs from a TO perspective, you're
oh
sad.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's a big heartbreaking thing.
yeah. I will say communities appreciate your TOs more, please. You don't appreciate your TOs at all. Whether you're waiting till 5 minutes before bracket to pre-reg, or you're paying at the door, and then you're complaining about your seating afterwards. Like, God, please just it's not hard to make it easy on your TO's life, and also to make it easier for everyone else. But there's a lot of reasons. Those I've got some problems with people in my scene. Just not like actual like, oh my god, I hate them, but just like more getting sick of people because I just gotten sick of people after a while. See them 3 times a week or whatever, where we interact in one specific environment, whatever. So that's a little tough. Something I need to do in my personal life with family and friends and personal goals. I just started a job, my first job a month ago or so. So as well, so I got a lot of stuff to do in life that's not Melee related, and I realized I just need to step back for a bit.
And you've done it before, and you could do it again. And
Yeah,
when you come back, we'll all be very excited to see you again.
yeah, I'll be very happy to see everyone else. I think it'll be a really good time, and I'll miss it. I'll definitely start missing it towards the end, but I think it's definitely something I need to do. I may sneakily go to the top 8 of a one major. I'm not gonna say which one in the next 2 months, but not because I'm there for Smash, but because I'm probably visiting a friend who's not related to Smash, and I'm like, hey, I'm there in the area, and if J-Mook's going, like, I'll cheer him on. I'll go. I'll cheer him on. So, but other than that, nothing planned for me in the next 2 months or so.
Where
See me at
can?
Big House though.
Oh, well, of course, and I will see you there, and I will. I mean, my social energy will not be nearly at the same rate as yours, but hopefully you'll end up thinking to yourself in some capacity, not all of the Melee community is bad. Cypher's kind
No,
of
they
cool,
are.
but
Well,
also lives in
he's
Pennsylvania.
okay.
It also lives in Pennsylvania. That's what sucks.
Yeah, that is that's a big red flag for me.
You ever been to Pennsylvania?
Shout out, actually, no, but shout out Alice Climbers. I need to go to Pennsylvania. I need to visit Alice. I don't know if you know Alice.
No, I know Alice Climber. It's not because I've interacted, but because proxy,
Oh
Twitter
yeah.
and
Alice
Discords
is
and
a
stuff. Yep.
really good friend of mine, and she's great, and she's from Pittsburgh, obviously. So I'd love to go to a fight pit in the future, like next year, hopefully, if they have one.
Gumball.
Yeah, we'll
Please.
see.
Sorry, it's okay, Gumball. You do what you gotta do, but
I would love to visit Pennsylvania at some point, but it's essentially to see Alice. Alice is a big homie, so.
all right. And are you going to be active on @ETossed on Twitter for the next 2 months, or are you going completely dark?
Probably pretty dark. If you know me well, you could follow my private Twitter, which I probably won't be as active on. But I'll probably be active talking about my actual life rather than Melee stuff. Maybe like, if J-Mook wins a major, I'll be like, hey, good job, Jake, and just send a picture of thumbs up and just on my main account.
Of course. But these pictures of food will not post themselves when you have a good meal. And
no, exactly. You gotta put it somewhere.
Twitter, your private Twitter, Shout into the void.
Exactly, or my personal stuff, but I don't give that out. I try to keep my personal stuff pretty separate from my online life. I didn't even reveal my first name was Jeremy until like age 19. I kept it super separate. So.
I didn't face reveal until it was last year. Yeah, I podcasted for a little while without doing any video stuff because I didn't have the resources to do it, but also because I was like, I don't want to do the whole face reveal thing right now, whatever. And now I'm very, very visible. It's all good, though. Somebody recognized me at Pound off of my face, even though I had a mask on. I was very impressed. I was like, I would have such a hard time recognizing people that I sort of barely know in the corner of my Twitter brain. I had such a hard time recognizing people with masks on at Pound, but I was trying to. I recognized JoJo after 3 days of walking by JoJo sporadically and going, pretty sure that was JoJo, but I'm not sure. And then somebody recognized me, and that was pretty cool. That was a nice little moment there. But
I keep getting recognized at majors too. I don't know how it happens. Every major I've been to, everyone's like, "Hey, are you ETossed?" I'm like,
"You're
"How
tall,
do you know
aren't
me,
you?"
Man? Yeah, I'm 6'2".
Yep, there you go. That's all you need to know.
So that probably helps, but it's still like I don't know how you know me, man. Like I'm just a funny map guy. I just do funny stat stuff on Twitter. Like I don't know how this happened.
It's a meritocracy. You do cool stuff. People want to be around you just off the bat.
Apparently so.
But in the meantime, while you're going dark and stuff, please tell us where you think we should turn our attention to. For example, where will Will 4M, where will it be twitched? Where will it be live streamed?
It'll be on Team Oxy, which streamed SSS back in the day. If anyone was around back then, I mean, probably like stopped in 2015, 2016.
Team Oxy used to do TMTs before it moved to where did?
Yep.
Where is it now? Gosh,
I think it's on FlyQuest, or it's on FlyQuest, I think.
Right, but they're not even doing it at the moment because everybody's going to IRL stuff, which makes sense. But
yeah.
Shout outs to TMT.
Yeah, no, Team Oxy, and then I think there'll be a secondary stream on Monster, Minnesota, which is just one of our players just like has an extra setup to stream something on because we didn't have 2 streams, so we'd rather have 2 streams. Definitely check it out this Saturday. Talk about Fest beforehand, probably on Team Oxy GG as well. That Friday with a 2-stock tournament for fun, probably $100 prize pool, with top players like Polish, Salt, Zuppy, J-Flex, Ben, Chape, you know, a lot of $100 grand. A lot of top players will be there for that fest as well. A lot of Indiana's best players, a lot of Iowa's best players. Sadly, Slow King can't come.
Sorry,
Blue will be there. I love Blue. Ethan's my guy. I love Blue. I love Latin, Frigid, Imder. All of them are great people.
But what about J-Mook?
J-Mook will not be there.
But ETossed. J-Mook.
He was supposed to, so he was gonna go to Phantom. He's like, I can't go because Phantom, and then he just got busy. I don't blame him. He's hey, he's top player now. It's different when you're an unknown guy, unknown, and you're getting DM'd by this guy on Twitter who's like, hey, I like your Sheik, I'll fly you out. Versus, if you're a top 5, top 3 player, and you just want to sometimes, like not have tournaments. I mean, I don't blame him. He got COVID after going to Gommel and then couldn't go to Phantom, and that must have sucked. So like I don't blame him.
And then that might have also turned into the Axe thing where Axe was supposed to go to Xanadu Legends, I think this past weekend or 2 weekends ago, but it's just like COVID was lingering and not going away 100%. Shout outs to everybody who's trying to stay safe. Shout outs to those of you who are not. Please turn around the train and get onto the Be Safe bus. And that's all I got then. We'll make sure to have the Team Oxy Twitch plugged in the description of this podcast episode because it doesn't sound like we need to push your stuff super hard since you're going to be going dark. But I'm glad I caught you because I've wanted to talk to you for a while, but every time you would go on to Radio Melee, I thought, well, maybe ETossed is satisfied with the Radio Melee appearances. But I kept saying to myself, no, there's no way. ETossed, it has to be cut off. Like Topher PPMD every time is like, all right, ETossed, do you have any shout outs? Let's get you going. And so I thought, I still need to get you on. So I'm really appreciative of you coming on. Hopefully,
thank you so much for having me.
You enjoyed just being told this is where you need to be. I'll take care of everything else. Hopefully you enjoyed that as compared to having to be that person for somebody else. You do that
much
so
nicer,
often.
much nicer.
Yes. Only best treatment for ETossed on bottom of the Smash Mountain.
Yeah.
But to the rest of you who are interested in learning where you should go for places, if you go on Linktree and do Cypher003, you'll see the links to everything that I do, including the Patreon, including the Twitter, including the Twitch, including all the podcasts. Literally, I made sure every single podcast platform this is on, there's a link for it in that Linktree, which is like 20 plus. There are way too many podcast platforms. I'll just say it. And if you use Stitcher Premium, fuck Stitcher Premium. All right, so let's go ahead and start to wrap up. Any shout outs for us, ETossed, on your way out today?
Yes, a few shout outs. Shout out Minnesota scene for the most part. Y'all are great. Shout out Chape, who's downstairs, actually below me somewhere. I don't know where. I think it's the room over there, playing some online Melee right now, playing some ladder, who I'm housing for a while. Shout out to a lot of my close friends who I talk to a lot. Alice Climbers, like I said, Scout from MDVA, Randy, ATM if he's listening, Salt loves, excited to see Salt in a few days, Mads, Toriel, everyone coming to 4M, all that. Shout out to you, Cypher, for having me on, being a great guy. Shout out to you for planning, which is like something Smashers don't really do well. I've noticed it sucks because I'm a planner as well. But yeah, shout out to everyone there. Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my mom. Love my mom.
Oh yes. Oh, hearts in the chat. Let's make sure we get hearts in the chat.
One last shout out to Melee Stats Discord. Just because if you want a great place to talk about Melee, definitely a great place to do that there. As long as you're fine with being bullied by Give Me That Wheat. As long as you're fine with being bullied by him, you'll have a great time.
See, somebody said it. Somebody finally said it. You go on that server to endure the slightly vague but slightly specific pressure of a presence that you don't always 100% know where it's coming from. Then we will say something directly to a message you put out onto the Discord server of Melee Stats, and you go, oh. But I do love Wheat, and I love the podcast Waiting for Game, so shout outs to Waiting for Game. And whenever the video comes out, I've been holding out for so long. This is almost as bad as Alston Melee's holdout of their podcast. They finally came back. I'm super happy. I'll be super happy and pop off super hard when this Melee Stats V2 video, the next one, whenever that happens, when it comes out.
Yeah, God, we're waiting forever. It feels like it's never gonna come out. It's like Crush is never gonna come back. Sad.
That would be somebody who I wouldn't want to get onto the podcast. But anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this here. We're going to do the intro, ETossed, and then we're going to do thumbnail. So you don't go anywhere, but to all of y'all for the recording bit, you will be looking at the outro now. The rest of us in stream we'll be back in just a second.